Okay, welcome back. Today I'm joined again by Attorney Matthew Underwood from Madison. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
And Matt, another great question designed just for you. This question comes from Madison, Wisconsin, and the reader asks the following. What is the K-1 form due date? I receive income from a trust and I am supposed to receive a K-1 form. Is there a date that form is due to be issued, or can the trustee issue it at any time she wishes?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the K-1 form, that's a form that beneficiaries receive to show what their tax liability is. And you might be a beneficiary of a trust, you might be a beneficiary of an estate, but that's the way that that estate or trust is going to pass off that tax liability to the beneficiaries. So the actual due date is going to depend on a few different things. First of all, it depends on whether the estate is on a calendar year or on a fiscal year. So if the estate's on a calendar year, that's where we typically have that April 15th deadline that everyone's so used to. So if the estate's on a calendar year, you may not be receiving that K-1 until that tax return due date of April 15th. And if you feel like that we're getting close to that deadline, you haven't received that K-1 form from the trustee yet, you may need to file an extension for your own taxes. But you might want to just contact that trustee and ask them what the status is or when they might be getting those K-1 forms to you. So again, it's important to know whether it's a fiscal or calendar year estate or trust, and then you can know what that K-1 due date is. Anything that you had to add on that, Tom, or that you've seen in your practice?
Well, Matt, I was just thinking this year our reader is in luck because they extended the due date to July 15th, I believe. And normally it's always April 15th or the 16th or whatever the Monday happens to be. But if in fact you're supposed to file that, you need that K-1 this year, you still have roughly a month and a half here to contact the trustee and get the answer about the due date for the trust return. Because again, if, like Matt said, if the trust isn't filing, doesn't have to file by what was normally the April 15th date, it may be that you don't need it this year for your personal tax return either. So I think what you said is exactly correct. You got to talk to the trustee and figure out when the due date is for that trust return. And Matt, I have seen confusion with that in my practice because it depends on the decisions made around the time the person died, right? So if they died late in the year, the calendar year, it's possible that the trustee and the attorney decided to opt out of calendar year and essentially put off filing the return for more like 16 months. So I think what you said is correct. Contact the trustee and get that date because you may be waiting around for a K-1 that isn't going to come even by July 15th.
Yeah, that's right. I think, one of the important parts of this or dealing with any sort of estate, especially when we start talking about estate and trust tax returns, is that you have qualified professionals that are looking at that and helping out with that. Things go a lot smoother when things are done right. So I would encourage you to work with your estate attorney, work with your CPA, and make sure that those filings are done right and done right the first time.
Yes, on that note, I totally agree. So thank you to the reader for the question, and thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tom.